Hey,
How are you?
welcome. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I got my we got the battle. We got the
Here
Royal
we go.
Rumble. I love it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we've got the wine guy here. I'm a hard liquor guy.
I love it.
What's your favorite wine?
I'm a big fan of everything, really. I mean, it depends. I mean, I'm a big sparkling wine fan, so champagnes are great. Um, you know, all sorts of different things are interesting to me.
Nice. So when you get home tonight, what wine are you gonna have first?
I've got I'll probably have a Coke with a lemon and lime. I've got, I've got so much work to do tonight that I'm not sure I can pull off any alcoholic beverages.
I'm not getting your favorite wine out of you, am I?
You know what it is, Brian? Honestly, it's not that I don't have I actually truly don't have a favorite wine. It's like
Really?
unlike liquor and beer, wine is so predicated on trying new things because there's so many of them. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's unlike almost anything else. I mean, you know how if somebody really knows a lot about music, they don't have a necessarily a favorite song or a favorite. They know so much. It's like that. I know so much
Right.
about wine that to me, it's more about the discovery of new things than it is about old favorites.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
Cool.
Well, I'm a martini guy, just in case you cared. We're gonna have to have a martini sometime.
I like that.
But we want to talk to you. I want to talk to you a little bit here and just ask you a couple questions. And then I've got some surprise guests for you.
Let's do it.
You ready?
I am.
Um, all right. Here, let's talk about social business. The term social business,
Okay.
because it's something that everyone's been that I've talked to has a really hard time defining. Not just defining what social business is, but what is social business going to be in 2014?
And when you say social, do you mean social media or do you mean like socially active?
Social media.
Okay. So are you asking me how I would define a social media business
Please, please.
from the standpoint of like how should businesses use social media or a social media agency or what's on your mind?
Yeah. How is a company best um, defined by being a social business?
So I think what's really happening here, Brian, is we're talking about communication, right? I think that what every company needs to understand and learn is that we're living in a world where you have now the ability to put out content at scale, right? Whatever you want to put out the world. I mean, look what we're doing. Look what you and I are doing right now. Like you created this media event as an individual, right? Because we have Spreecast, because you were able to use ads, because you were able to use Twitter. So everybody's a media business. And the quicker people realize, Brian, that they're in the media business, comma, I'm a lawyer, comma, I sell coffee, comma, we sell bottled water. As soon as everybody in this room realizes I'm a media company, comma, I'm Mike Roselle, comma, I'm Ian Grader. Once they do that, then they start actually living in the way that I think that this world is actually going to work, which is you're putting out content, you're bringing value, and then that lends itself for you to be able to do what you do for a living. I do this interview because I want to give as many great answers as possible to build bigger relationships with everybody that's watching so that in the future, whatever my business opportunities are, whether I'm trying to sell a book or I start a coffee company and I want people to buy my coffee, if I provide value up front as a media company to people, I then have a chance to maybe, possibly sell one of those items.
Great, great. No, I couldn't agree more. I think the hardest thing for a business is to be a social business. What you just said is hands down. I totally agree. Now, what's the first step in doing that?
Well, I think it's about figuring out what your story is, right? The first step is, what am I saying to the world? I've told the world that I'm an entrepreneur. The next thing I do is I tell the world that I'm an entrepreneur, and then I have to figure out how do I do that best. For me, it's been video. For me, it's been
Yeah.
through book form. For me, it's been through keynotes. For me, it's been YouTube. I'm great at Twitter because I love the engagement, right? So I'm a big fan of the engagement. So that's a factor. So, you know, you got to decide, are you good at the written word, audio, video, print? You know, how are you going to communicate to the world? So you need to figure out what story you're going to tell, and then what are you best at? Whether you're an individual like you and I are, Brian, or whether it's, you know, Aquafina trying to reach a certain demo is at best on Facebook and Pinterest. And then what you have to do is figure out how to actually storytell properly across these platforms. So it goes to, what am I going to say? Where am I going to say it? And then how do I say it best on that platform?
Great. You know, Cheryl Dersey here just asked a great question. How does that apply to small business, or is it the same?
Cheryl, you know what? It's basically the same game, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, the difference is that they don't have, small businesses, including mine, we don't have as much budget as Aquafina has. So you may not be able to do it on, you know, if you're a big brand, you need to be on all of them. You need to be on, you know, Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus. You need to basically be on all of them where your customer is. And when you're Aquafina, your customer's everywhere, right? When you're a smaller business, you may not have the money or the bandwidth to create that much content. So you've got to pick the best spots. But Facebook and Twitter are becoming a necessity for most businesses.
Great. So what are your predictions for 2014? Social business or social media wise?
I think Instagram will continue to get bigger and more important for big and small business. I predict that LinkedIn will become more and more similar to Facebook and will allow us to have pages that allow us to produce content. I predict that there's a website that I don't even know exists yet that is going to be important to us by this time next year. And I predict that Twitter will continue to evolve with better analytics and better ad products.
That's an interesting one. The ad products and the analytics. I mean, that's been something that's been missing, I think, you know, from a one screen or one dashboard, one place to look for everything. When you look at analytics, you look across the board. You have to look at every single social site for where you're advertising to see what those analytics are. Do you think that one dashboard is possible, that one analytics place you can go to that gives you your top level, your executive information?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying to tackle that, whether it's Salesforce or Oracle at some level. I also think that there are startups like Curate, which I think are incredible, that if you care about your analytics across the web, from a strictly picture standpoint, right? So what I just shared in here in the chat, Curalate's a company I'm paying very close attention to. I think they're doing incredibly interesting stuff if you care about how your picture is doing across the platforms, not just within them. So yeah, there's some cool stuff going on.
Great. So you've written several books, several successful books. You're several successful businesses. You're doing all this great stuff. What have you fulfilled where you want to be, or what's next for you?
I'm equally hungry as I am satisfied. You know, I'm very thankful, and I want to smell the roses, and I appreciate all of what life has given me. At the same token, you know, I'm very hungry, Bri. You know, I want to buy the New York Jets, and we're talking about multi-billion-dollar organizations. So I think for me, you know, humility and ego, hunger and satisfaction. I'm just a walking anomaly.
Great. Well, I hope that when you get that jet, I can get a ride.
You got it. You know, but you know it's not a jet. I want the New York Jets. I'm not interested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
Oh,
in
the Jets. I should have saw that. I should have seen that coming.
Jets. Yeah, the New York Jets. I don't want a jet. I don't want a watch. I don't want a fancy car. I want the New York Jets.
Well, sorry to hear about your Jets this year. I hope you know.
I'll take it. I'm not that upset about it. They've been better than I thought.
Great. I got a guest here that I want to turn on video. His name is Mark Fidelman. He's a Forbes contributor, author of one of the first business social books called Socialized, and also starting a new business called Rainforest. It's an influencer network. And we're going to pop him on. He has one really interesting, compelling question for you that he wanted to ask you, and I wanted to make sure that he had a chance to do that.
Great.
And there's Mark.
Hey, Gary, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Mark.
How are you, Gary?
Good, man.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you just fine.
All right, great. So, Gary, my question is, what do you think of the wall feed optimization decisions Facebook has made recently? Do you still recommend businesses invest in Facebook?
That's a great question, Mark. I was waiting for how long until I got my first question about that. So it happened in my first interview after the morning it happened. The answer is yes. And the answer is, it's slightly less valuable than it was a few minutes ago, right? I mean, this has progressively been happening, right, Mark? At some level, when you buy banner ads, right, or television commercials or print ads, you're always renting, right? Facebook's looking to get people into more renting and less organic reach. Here's a fact that you should know. When we do our creative on Facebook, we're about 68% better than the market in getting engagement rates here at VaynerMedia. When we do our creative against paid products in Facebook, we're 168% better than the rest of the market. So for me, our brands and small businesses, our brands are clearly going to be spending money on Facebook. For me, I still think big businesses should do that. Yes. What I think they need to be careful of is they need to support the little people, right? Small businesses need to be careful. I think Facebook really, 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 really needs to be careful. And so J.S. Gilbert says, if a tree falls in Facebook, will anybody hear it without an ad spend? The answer is absolutely. I mean, I'm getting higher engagements in the last 2 weeks since the change, not lower. They're actually rewarding people that are doing better content. Ironically, the timing of my new book was huge because I've got a lot of people. You go look at Gary Vee and Facebook, you can see people are literally tweeting right now numbers that their engagement numbers, impressions are going up, not down. I'm not ready to say Facebook's going to treat this completely like rewarding the people that are doing white hat good content, because I'm not that naive. I do think they're lowering it a little bit. On the flip side, from what I see so far, Mark, and it's a slippery slope, every time they do this, I get a little more cynical, but still, it's about attention. I challenge every single person here to post something on Facebook, post something on Twitter, post something everywhere else, and ask somebody to buy something and track the conversion links. Just because everybody can see what you say on Twitter doesn't mean that they consumed it, because there's a lot of noise going through Twitter, right? It's not about the impressions, it's about the conversion. And that's where people are being naive, right? If you put out content that's valuable, more people will see it on Facebook. If it's valuable and it converts, you will get more and more of your actual business objective. So what they've done, Mark, is they've given us less at bats, conceivably, but they should still reward the people that actually know how to hit home runs.
So, Gary, in 2014, you think it'll be more or less pay to play for Facebook? Sounds like you're still recommending you stay on it.
I think Fortune 5000s, not 500s, 5000s should be all in. From a small business, it's always been a tough place to play. I still believe it works, but it's a little less as awesome as it was. I truly do believe that. But that doesn't mean, listen, Mark, the reason this is doing much better than I even think my cynics thought is because I really went into detail. There is a way to hack it. And when I say hack it, there's a way to put out good content, whether you're one person with one fan or Lady Gaga or Pepsi. I do think 2014, guys, email open rates and conversions are collapsing. Banner ads always cost money. SEM ads always cost money. I think people are picking on Facebook for something that they're just becoming more similar to everything else we do.
Great. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Mark.
My pleasure.
Hey Gary, I got another guest surprise here for you. His name is Todd Williams. He's the head of social business for SAP. It's this little company, and I'm not sure if you've
I've
heard of
it
them.
once or twice.
So we're gonna pop him on, and he's got a question for you as well.
Hey,
guys,
Todd.
how are you? Hey, good
Hey
to see you.
Todd.
All right, so I have to represent the soda drinking contingent of this conversation since we've got wine and hard liquor covered. So we'll get the teetotaler vote covered here.
I love it.
So Gary, the advice that you give is really sound. You've got great practical advice, great practical guidance for companies. What about companies that are really struggling from a cultural perspective on, getting their leadership, getting their lines of business to really start thinking about this as a new way of engaging? Because there's a whole cultural shift that has to happen in these companies, and that's where I think the real game is. So how are you tackling that from your book or from a practical sense?
That's a great question, Todd. Are you saying that, I want to go deeper to your question, because to give you the right answer, I've got to ask a couple questions. Are you referring to the notion of you want senior leadership participating in social?
I don't know that they necessarily need to participate in social. I think they have to buy off on social as a channel, and they have to buy off on the idea that social is going to be a game changer for them. And many of them are still reticent.
Now, listen, you're preaching. You're preaching.
Right.
I had a very big profile in the New York Times 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, but in that profile, Todd, Mondelez, one of my clients, was willing, I was stunned, to go on the record and say that we've grown their business 9% on Nilla wafers this year because they invested all their media dollars into us. And all we did was not media, we did creative on Facebook and Pinterest. And for a brand that didn't grow for a decade, the business was up 9%. I believe that once more data comes out on true ROI contained within a social content world, just like that Nilla, your top bosses, the people you're talking about, the people that I talk to every day in my life, what I call the old white men, these 60, 70-year-old, executives, whether they're female or man. I just like to pick on the old white guy. It's a fun thing to pick on. I will be one day. They love that story, right? We've gotten so much business recently because that's a true ROI, real gosh darn story. I think what's happening, Todd, I've looked at the historic acceptance of SEO and SEM, of blogging, of web e-commerce on television, even going way back to the 50s. Leo Burnett and his contemporaries back then, I mean, they dealt with this issue at hand. They dealt with convincing people that television was better than radio. The truth to this answer, Todd, believe it or not, is it's just a matter of time. It really is. That is the true answer to this question. That being said, I'm lucky. When somebody doesn't believe in this, I pass on trying to convince them. I don't want to convince a new client that they should use VaynerMedia or do social media. I spend 0 minutes on it. Oh, you don't believe in it? I'm out. And I go find somebody else that is believing in it and I do it. Now, when you work within one of these organizations, you don't have that luxury when you work within one of these organizations. So it comes from education, Todd. I've made the biggest impacts in organizations by going and speaking at these organizations and talking real business instead of talking marketing jargon around social.
So you think it really comes down to to recapture what you were saying. It comes down to education, and then using these proof points, these success stories, as leverage into the leadership, into your old white men, the Studio 54 executives, right? Getting them to start changing their viewpoint.
And to challenge them on the ROI of their traditional media. That's been very effective for me early on when I said, hey, okay, you want to quantify social. How do you quantify PR? Well, we have this scoring system. How do you qualify television? SAP, you guys have billboards everywhere. How the fuck do you guys quantify those billboards? Because I can tell you right now, there is a math system that your company has accepted, but it's not the real ROI, right? And so that is and if you're willing to have a real conversation with a real businesswoman, a real businessman, that's where the rubber hits the road. And I'm willing to have that conversation with people, and that's why we've been successful. I know what I'm talking about. I know how to sell stuff, right? Like, I know how to sell stuff. That really matters.
Perfect. All right. Gary, thank you.
Well, thanks, Todd. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for
joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Stay well.
Gary, I got got you for 10 more minutes.
Is that right? That's not what they, oh, okay. Matt, cool, keep going. I think there's a mix up on my end.
No problem.
No worries.
No problem.
Keep going.
I actually only have 2 more questions for you.
No worries.
One,
Brian, just so you know, excuse me 1 second, Brian. Brian says he asked me for 10 more minutes. Somehow there was a mix up. Obviously, this wasn't a 15, it was a 30. So that next thing that they heard, that call, I'll have to do it some other way. Figure it out, work with Nate or Mike. Go ahead.
We'll take you for 5 more, and maybe that'll help a little bit.
Thank you.
Tell me about what you saw with the way that the White House handled the healthcare when they launched it. It was one of the biggest debacles. Yep. And how do you think that they could have communicated that better?
They handled it like crap. They handled it like politicians and like corporations. They weren't real. Obama should have jumped on Spreecast with you and said, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to look under the hood and figure out what went wrong in a setting, not reading from a teleprompter, being real. The reason I'm never scared of anything is because I'm willing to say I'm sorry, right? That's it. And you need to know how to say sorry. And the best way to say sorry is to say it and mean it and not like put the cheese and the fluff. And, you know, he's got handlers around him and he's a politician in himself. And it's not a Republican or Democrat thing. There's been no politician that's done a good job, you know, and no corporation that does a good job. They never go real. And that's why we hate it.
Yeah. So how would you have done it differently? I mean, obviously there's no way to go up, but up from there. But give us a few things.
If I was the president of the United States, I would straight up jump on Spreecast like this and be like, I fucked up. You know what? If the president curses like that, real shit hits the fan. I mean, you can really get fired up. I mean, like that's what people want to see. That's real. You know why people like me? Because they know that I am a real, like every person in here who's met me in real life is dumbfounded by how similar I am in real life to what's happening right now. You know why? It's hard not to be yourself. It's hard to be a politician. It's hard. And listen, I'm not naive. There's a lot of people that hate that I curse. You know, they hate that, like, there's some, you know, the people in here right now, some of them don't like it. I respect that. But what they know is it's what's really coming out of my soul. And that's what we want. That's what we want. We want, you know, the cliche authenticity, real. We want it. We want it. Like, I'm not perfect. I make a ton of mistakes. But I'm going to own it. And more importantly, like, you make mistakes too. You know, if I was a president, things would get weird. I would like call out my own citizens. I'm like, you don't work hard enough, sucker. I'm not giving you any more welfare. Like, you know, like I would play both ways, right? Like I would also give welfare, saying like, screw you, rich person. Like we need that. Like I would play whatever felt right, not like what's company lines. We want humans. We want humans. Yeah.
Hey, so I have a so here's my last question for you. I'm gonna actually borrow a question from Cheryl Burgess, and I think she threw out one of the questions that's been on both my mind, everyone's minds. Bryan, could you ask Gary what he thinks about the potential brands have to empower their employees, and I'm gonna fill this in, to be more social?
I get very scared about that because there's two ways to handle it. There's the great way to handle it, which is to do what I do at VaynerMedia, which is everybody can do anything they want. And if they do something wrong, we'll deal with it after the fact instead of being communists. There's the really poor way to handle it, which is you give them content to put out to the world and you think you're helping them, but everybody knows it's not authentic. We don't want to see our friends posting their company's stuff on social. And most of all, even if you said, hey, here's a suggested thing you can say to social, you don't have to do it. Every employee naturally thinks that they're somewhat pressured to actually do it, and it creates this mucky thing.
Interesting. So how do you drive them to how do you help them become more social when they want to be?
Education. You bring in people like that, you know, you buy a copy of this for all of them. You bring me in, you bring you in, you let them go to conferences, you educate them. Education is such a powerful thing. Just not when it's structured like the American education system. Zing, zing.
All right, dude. I promise you 5 more minutes, but I really appreciate it. I congratulate you on your book, on your success, and looking forward to you buying the New York Jets and a jet so you can fly me out to the football game.
I appreciate it. And thank you, Bryan. You were tremendous. Thank you, Laura B. Williams, JS. Thank you, Professor Joyce. I know there's a professor in the house, so I didn't want to disrespect Billy Lee, Mike Sager, Lynn, Cheryl John, Cheryl. Thank you all so much. I wish you all a great holiday.
Great. Thank you guys, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And thanks again. Bye-bye. Let's see. Hey, everybody, one final thing I want to let you know, since now I've just got you to myself. We're going to be throwing all of the names for everybody that that subscribe to this into literally a hat and be pulling them out, and you will be receiving a tweet. 50 people are giving out 50 books. So 50 of you will receive a tweet. If you get a tweet that says you won Gary's book, then you can DM us your address and we'll have that shipped to you. So that's about it. Really appreciate you guys joining us here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.